Welcome to the Josh Hall Web Design Show. Helping you build better websites and create a web design business that gives you freedom and a lifestyle you love.
Hey friends, welcome to the show. This is episode 153. Super excited about this talk for a lot of reasons. I personally am very, very passionate about what we're about to dive into right now, which is essentially authentic branding and how to put more personality in your business so that you can grow your business and you can build likability, trust, and authority quicker with potential clients. I'm really passionate about this because I've seen it play out in both my web design agency and what I'm doing now. And I've seen a lot of my students have a lot of success with personalizing areas of their business. And I wanted to bring somebody in who is knee deep in branding and strategy and authentic personalization. This is actually one of my close colleagues. This is Lisa Breedt. She's a web design student of mine. She's also in my web design club. And as you're going to hear in this talk, she's awesome. She is someone who has a very intensive and purposeful approach to branding because she is not just a web designer, but she is a brand specialist. So she offers a very high intensive type of service for her clients, which are mostly female entrepreneurs. And she helps them from the ground up come up with their branding, their mission, their values. She helps them translate that to actual design and branding elements and comes up with style guides. And she takes that all the way through actually taking it into their online presence with building their website. So she has a very, very unique perspective on branding and the importance of authentic branding nowadays, which, as you'll find out through this conversation, is more important and the more exciting than ever. Because as you'll find out, the more personal you get and the more real you are, the quicker you'll build trust, likability, and authority with clients. Therefore, the quicker you can grow your business and the quicker you can get awesome clients who you want to work with and who want to work with you. So I'm so excited about this conversation. We really dive in and out of the various methods and strategies for being more authentic and how to brand your business with some personality and how to humanize your brand. It's funny because we've been talking about this a lot recently on the podcast. Back on episode 148, I had the community manager from Gravity Forms on and talked about their strategy with humanizing Gravity Forms. And I do want to say a perfect complement to this episode, once you get to the end of this one, is to go back and listen to episode 150 if you haven't listened to that one yet. In that episode, I give you my top 10 ways to personalize your business. I think that'll perfectly accompany this episode because Lisa and I really get into a lot of the mindset and strategies and methods about authentic branding and how it can help your business. I found this conversation fascinating. Lisa is awesome. She really is a wealth of passion and knowledge about this topic. So I'm super excited to hear what you think. And before we dive in, I just want to say, you're going to hear about this a lot as we bring it up in the interview, but Lisa is a part of my web design club. She's a founding member. And this club that you hear about is not like some special thing that I have for only a certain amount of people. Like, it is open to you now. If you'd be interested in me being your coach and being able to chat with me regularly and being able to meet awesome web design entrepreneurs like Lisa and a lot of others who you've heard on the podcast, I want to welcome you into my web design club today. You can go to joshhall.co/webdesignclub, all one word. There will be a link for the show notes of this episode too at joshhall.co/153. I would love to welcome you into my web design club so you can hang out with me regularly and meet Lisa and other amazing members to have a support system around you. Really, really excited to help you alongside your journey. And without further ado, here is Lisa, brand strategist, expert in personalization and humanizing brands. I can't wait to hear what takeaways you pull from this conversation. Enjoy. Lisa, welcome to the podcast. So great to have you on.
Thanks so much for having me, Josh. I'm really excited to be here today.
Yeah, so we had to redo a couple intros because of some Wi-Fi issues and stuff going on. But I think third time's the charm. I'm really, really excited to chat with you today. You are somebody who is, in my mind, an expert brand person. And I love your design style. I love what you're up to. I'm really excited to pick your brain today about branding and design and authenticity. But I would love to start out with maybe where you're based out of. And then if you could just give us a snapshot of what you do with your business, that could be a great place to start for those who don't know you.
Absolutely. So I'm based on the southernmost tip of Africa, in South Africa, a small coastal town called Knysna. I moved here about 3 years ago from a very large city, or the capital of South Africa, Pretoria, where there's about 13,000 people living. And now I live in a town with 70,000 people. So it's quite a change in setting. But we were just looking, my partner and I were looking for a more relaxed way of living, being closer to nature. Obviously, being at the ocean is a big bonus. And, with technology nowadays, you can literally live and work anywhere. We have video technology, we have Zoom, we have websites, we have social media. There's just so many tools at our disposal that we can literally connect with anybody over the world. Just to maybe expand a bit on that, I don't have any clients that live where I live. All my clients. I was
wondering about that. Yeah.
Yeah, awesome. Because I meet with them like we are now, meeting on Zoom. I never meet them in person. And this, even happened pre-COVID. I would meet my clients on video calls, as opposed to, fighting traffic and just wasting time around meetings, etc. But what do I do? 2 years ago, I started a boutique creative studio where I focus and work with female-owned businesses or female entrepreneurs. I assist them to basically build a visual brand identity and then translate that into websites. So I basically help women to tell their stories in the new digital space by making sure they have a consistent and cohesive brand identity.
That's beautiful. Well said. And I am curious about how you got some of those clients remotely. So we'll dive into that. But it really is interesting that you came right out of the gate and talked about technology and how you can work with anyone, anywhere. You are in a place in the world. And one reason we had a couple attempts at the intro, and this is actually a call that was rescheduled because you guys had some power issues. Apparently, the grid is different there in South Africa, right, than we're used to the States. Is that how that works? Like you have to share power and stuff like that?
I mean, sometimes the grid goes, it comes under strain, so then they have to load shed. It doesn't happen often, but when it happens, it can be quite disruptive. So you would not have power for like 3 hours, and sometimes that's twice a day. So you'll be load shedded in the morning and in the evening. So you've got to learn how to work around those things, obviously. But yeah. That's just, again, where technology comes to play, because if you were going to have meetings with people in person, now maybe because you don't have power, it's difficult. So one has just got to, I suppose, use mobile devices, make sure everything is on charge. But what's nice about being in control of your day and using technology is you can always reschedule, and it's not such a major story than in-person meetings and in-person events.
That's a great point. That's a really good point, because a couple of days ago we were going to have this call and you said, you let me know what was going on with the power. And you were like, I might be able to do it, but I'm a little worried about, if my battery goes out or the lighting goes out. So I said, let's just reschedule. No big deal. You're exactly right. If we had driven to a studio somewhere, or you made an hour trip or I made a trip, it would be a whole different ball game. So yeah, what an amazing time we're living in, right? With technology.
Absolutely.
And just the fact that, I don't want to derail us too far in the beginning, but that's no shocker for this show. I'm really excited about this time of technology right now for a lot of reasons that you've already mentioned, but also I feel like so connected with so many people, and I'm learning so much about different cultures and different countries. And you'll be proud of me, Lisa. I've learned to tell accents better. So because you've been a student of mine for a while and you're my web design club, we've had quite a few calls together. I love the South African accent, by the way. I love your guys' accent. I'm so curious about it. But I say that to say I was watching Shark Week this summer, and the guy talking had an interesting accent. And my wife was like, that accent's kind of weird. And I was like, that is a South African accent. I know it. And then he was like, we're based in South Africa. And it was for like great white. I know you guys have like great white sharks out there. So,
yep.
But it was so funny. I was like, I know that accent because I talk with Lisa, who's in my club. So I just think it's really cool. I'm really excited about this time. And I think you are as well, sounds like.
Absolutely. And I mean, even if I think of the Web Design Club that you have, I've met so many people from across the world, and it's fascinating to just jump on a quick call with them, get to know who they are, learn a little bit about their culture. The accents are fascinating. They definitely are. And just see how different people operate with the same industry, because we kind of all in web design and branding, etc. But how the kind of business model works in different countries, and also to learn from one another. I mean, it's fascinating. It's just the world has really become our oyster if you use technology to your advantage, and there's no reason you shouldn't.
Yeah, a good point. And I think on this topic of branding and authentic branding more specifically, I think we really have an opportunity as web designers to set ourselves apart from the competition if we are genuine and we are ourselves. Now, interesting point there though, Lisa. I think this is a great point to dive into. Certain countries, certain cultures are a little bit different. Case in point, we have a lot of UK members in the club that are some of our best friends now. They're a little more reserved typically, not our members as much, because, they're getting out of their branching out of their shells, but it does seem like some English cultures are a little more reserved about expressing their true feelings or being really open about stuff. So I think some of the members in the Web Design Club I've seen really stand apart because they are doing that. They are putting pictures of themselves out there. They are being more themselves in messaging. I don't know if you guys say this in South America, but a big thing I see in UK and Australia is everyone will sign off with like best regards or sincerely yours or something that's real like uppity and stuffy. And I've always encouraged people talk like you talk, which really comes into play with authentic branding. Have you seen that as well with just different, cultures and how they come across with their branding?
Absolutely. I've had like the opportunity to work with a few UK clients at the moment, and they are very different. So, I'm quite an energetic, enthusiastic individual. That's just who I am. But some people are quite reserved, and that can sometimes catch you off guard because it feels like you're not getting any feedback necessarily. So you're like, am I making sense? Are they getting what I'm saying? Because maybe they're not as energetic as you are. So that's one side of it. I mean, people are different, personalities are different, but I do think one needs to play to your strength. And I also think, humans crave connection. So if you can find a way to tell your story and to bring your vibe and to bring your energy to your brand, to your touch points, if you can personalize it, you don't have to now become an Energizer bunny. You don't have to do that, but you're going to have to step out of the comfort zone ever so slightly. If that's something that you want to do. I mean, obviously, it's all dependent on, where do you want to go? Where do you want to position your business? Which clients do you want to reach? I mean, if you want to work with, say, American clients or South African clients, then you're going to have to maybe be a little bit more energetic. But I mean, if you mainly work in the UK and that's kind of the way people operate and they don't expect you to be an Energizer bunny, then it's fine. But I do think the personalization is key. So being authentic, being real, being genuinely interested in people and your clients, and then bringing that authenticity. Because here's a fact. I mean, every single one on this planet, 7 billion or 7 billion plus that we have on this planet, are unique individuals like yourself, Josh. You have had a unique experience on this planet. You've got your own experience. You've got your life experience. You've got your skill set. You've got ways that you package a product and a service that's absolutely unique to you. It's your blueprint. And you have a tribe out there in the world that's looking for exactly that. And if you package it in a way and you tell that story authentically online using the tools, you will attract that tribe. So it just depends on what your goals are and what you really want to do. For myself, I want to build an international clientele, and that's what I'm busy doing. So I have to put myself outside of my comfort zone. I have to do things that I maybe normally wouldn't do because I now have to work harder at connecting with different cultures and finding out really what makes them tick and how I can match my product or my service to their needs if they are my target market.
That's fascinating. See, this is why I was so excited to talk with you. You're so passionate. You have such gold advice when it comes to authenticity and personalization. And this is really big with branding and web design because, as you just said, Lisa, I think the quote that kind of summarizes what you just said was your vibe attracts your tribe. So however you come across, those are generally the kind of people you're going to get. Now, are you going to get the exact same personality type for every client? No, of course not. But depending on how you put yourself out there, you will attract certain, it could be personality types, but it will often be certain categories of industries or types of businesses. So that is fascinating to me. I think that's a great foundational point and a kind of a challenge for everybody to maybe get out of our comfort zone. I love what you said there. You don't necessarily have to be a super charismatic, like wildly energetic kind of person. And that's not me either. I'm probably on the same energy level as you, I feel like, but then I see these entrepreneurs that are like, hey, buy my product, blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, that is not what I'm interested in doing. I'm stressed out listening to that guy and like the video's going so fast. I'm like, I'm going to scroll right past this. So I think it's a good point to be yourself. And then in some cases, maybe just be the most energetic version of yourself. If you're going to sell or, if you're going to put yourself out there.
Absolutely. And I just think you need to show up authentically. I think sometimes people are scared of showing up. They're just scared because we feel, and I put myself in that category, we feel we're going to be judged or maybe we're not good enough or, imposter syndrome. We've spoken about this at length. There's all these things that play out in your mind, and those are the things that make you hesitant in putting yourself out there. But you know what? I think what is, or some advice I could give, because I battle with this and I have battled with this, but I just overcame my fears, is you only have to take one step. The proverb that says a journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single step. You only have to take that first step. You don't have to go from nothing to being the next, whoever you aspire to, but it's going to take consistent little steps that's going to make you better, and that you can see, okay, that was a little bit of a mess, or maybe I wasn't as good there, or maybe my energy lacked slightly there if you're rewatching a video that you perhaps did, or you took a photo and you don't like the way you looked in it. You can redo it. You can always tweak, but just start. If we strive for perfection, and this is what I battle with, it's the, constant things need to be perfect before we launch. Things need to be perfect before we take the next step. It's better to have things done than perfect. Just take that first step. You can always course correct. You can always improve as you go along. It has to be professional, yes, but it doesn't have to be perfect. Just launch.
That's a great point.
Put yourself out there. And another tip that I can just maybe think of, because there's this fear, especially when it comes to camera and switching the camera on, you don't have to start with outward-facing video necessarily. Start with your clients, inward. Start with your team. Start there where, it's not like, oh my gosh, the whole world is going to see my video. Start with clients. Do those little Loom short clips. If in the past you used to only email your client or, maybe send them a voice note, maybe the next step for you is to actually switch the video on and just send them a quick 2-minute video. If they give you a referral, do it 1-minute quick video where you thank them in person. People are blown away by those kind of extra touches that nobody else is doing. It's going to make you stand out. And it's going to help you to overcome the fear of actually switching the video on the next time when you have to produce a video for your homepage. Or you want to actually start doing tutorials. We don't have to be the next YouTube star. We really don't. Yeah. It all depends on your goals and what you want to achieve, and whether you actually should be doing lots of videos. Maybe it's not part of the strategy for you because it's not going to help you reach your objectives or what you're trying to achieve. But infusing your brand, infusing your website, infusing your copy, infusing everything that you do with your personality, with your essence, and with what you stand for and what impact you want to make is key, because that's what brand authenticity is all about.
Gosh, that's so well said, Lisa. I'm so glad we're starting with this topic or this idea as a framework, because well, I'm sure we'll get into some more tactile things, but there's no use of like creating a plan on where you're going to put your personalized content and videos and images if you're not ready to do that yet anyway. So I love that you're really talking in depth about starting small. And I hadn't really thought about that. The way I got comfortable on camera was mainly just doing screen sharing. Like you just said, I wasn't actually camera facing. And 5 years ago, me on camera, completely different. I think, didn't you see some videos that I shared in the club that was from like even just 4 years ago? And yep, swiveling in my chair. Some of the videos I did do, like there was a video for my local chamber of commerce that I did. And I was just like I was really monotoned. It was not good, but I did it over and over and over and over, repeated until I got better. I got more comfortable. But the key was I did start mainly doing just screen sharing. So I actually wasn't personally on camera. That is a great point. Something else you hit on there that I think is a really, really great kind of test run for everybody who's not yet comfortable on camera and putting themselves out there is the team thing. I didn't really think about that. No one's ever talked about that, but sure. Instead of just emailing your team, maybe you'll try sending some Loom videos and you just get a little more comfortable doing videos with people who you're comfortable with. That is an amazing tip, Lisa. I think that's something that's very overrated. And I haven't heard anyone talk about that. So what a great tip. Start small, start with people you're comfortable with, and then expand out from there. I'm actually curious to hear from you. You said you used to be where I was, terrified on camera, or you had some fear or imposter syndrome. How did you get over that? Was it repetition? Was it something? Did you get more confident in your services and then your confidence came out from that? Like, how did you get over that fear of putting yourself out there?
It's an interesting question. I think it's come a long time for me because I used to do video back in the day when we recorded video and we would burn it on CDs in a business that I was involved in. So that was like lights, camera, action in a semi-studio and having to overcome, the fear of just actually switching the camera on and then speaking into it. So I think it is practice, it's something that I had a goal and I wanted to achieve that. And that kind of forced me to do it. It's almost like this podcast, saying yes to your podcast. I mean, it was fearful to come onto your podcast, but, you nagged enough and eventually I gave in. So here I am. Sometimes you just have to put yourself out of your comfort zone. And I'm not saying you shouldn't be someone that you're not.
Yeah.
But we only learn and grow when we put ourselves in slightly uncomfortable situations. Otherwise, we're stagnant. So one of the things is just repetition. Next is obviously you want to read up about this. How can I do your research? How can I produce good videos? Read up about light, read up about microphones and cameras, just so that you can be comfortable with the technology that you're using. I think that's key. And then, overcoming the fear, you're just going to have to do it. I don't think there's a recipe. And as you do more of it, you become more comfortable with it.
Yes.
Yeah, I just think that's where the magic lies. And then, another tip is don't rewatch yourself. I did that in the beginning. I would spend so much time rewatching my videos. Actually, don't do that. Just do a take. When you make errors or you have something that you just edit it out and start from scratch. That's what I used to do. I used to start from scratch every single time. And that would be totally exhausting because, I mean, how many takes are you going to do? 20. And then 2 hours later, you're still busy with a 2-minute video. No, just
guilty.
Just
been there many a time.
And you know what? It is this striving for perfection or wanting things to be perfect or wanting things to be overly produced and polished. And this comes back to brand authenticity. The days of being overly produced, polished, so like perfect that people can't relate to you are over. People see that because, if a lot of this happened with the arrival of social media where a lot of people were like overly produced and really like using so many filters that they don't even look like they really do in person. Now, that's fine. You can do that. But guess what? The minute you have to meet a person in person and you do not look like the representation you had online, just there you have lost all their trust. You've broken the trust because you have just built up this persona, you've built up this energy and this vibe of who you are, but it's not really you because you are trying to be like others. You putting too many filters. You actually hiding who you are behind all of that, and it's not really who you are. When you show up in person, face to face, or on a Zoom meeting, it will show immediately, and there goes your trust. So my advice here is, just be you, be who you are. Make the little mistakes. We are human. No human is like a robot, and we don't make mistakes. I mean, this was our third take. It happens, but just flow with the mistakes. Now, look, if it's a really bad mistake, edit it out, but don't strive for that perfection. And then you never get out the blocks because you're never going to be happy with your product.
Yes. Gosh, so many great points, Lisa. This is why I was nagging you to come on, because you are filled with such great advice for this kind of stuff. I couldn't agree more. I think the days of the polished videos and the dated type of videos are 100% over. You're totally right. It actually, I think, almost can harm your business more now, depending on the industry, because people want to just know who they're working with. And it really is, I think, no matter the different countries and the different cultures globally, we are at a point where people want to know, like, and trust who they work with. And there is no better way to build that trust and authority than just personalizing, whether it's through videos, through your copy. I do want to talk tactilely or tactically about some of these things. Those, you just have to be yourself. You just said it. And it's funny, you talked about doing videos in the past. Talk about the pressure and feeling, really nervous when you have to go to a studio and the lights are on. And then they're like, okay, countdown, 5, 4, that's when this nerves really amp up. When you just have a little webcam and a halfway decent Blue Yeti microphone in your office, that's pretty much all you need. I totally agree. You should get comfortable with the gear, but now that's easier than ever. The barrier of the gear is not an issue now. So I couldn't agree more. It really goes such a long way. Tactically, here's the question. Okay, people are inspired. They're ready to get out of their comfort zone. I mean, my thought is that you're going to be doing it with clients anyway. You're going to be on a Zoom call. You're going to be meeting. You're going to be talking with people at a coffee shop. Why not just do it on your website? Why not post a video to save yourself time over and over and over again? But here's the question. Okay, where do I personalize? How do I personalize? I know a lot of people are terrified because they're probably like, oh man, do I need to have a YouTube channel and a podcast and do social media videos every day? And do I need to put a video on every page of my website? No, you said it best, Lisa. You can start small. You could do one thing and then just get the ball rolling and then go from there. So we could really take this in a number of different ways, but I'm curious, and maybe this is a tough question to answer, but what would be one of the most impactful ways you can personalize your business if you were to just do one thing, if you were just going to step out and try one thing?
It's tough. It is a tough question because I do think it depends. It depends on how you operate. In my case, I am not that visible on socials. I'm not, but I've not had the need to. I have a very organic business. I work with women. I found a handful of women in the beginning, and I've been working on referral-based business that have kept me busy for 2.5 years. So awesome. I don't need to use social media. I mean, it is always nagging in the back of my head that, at some point I'm going to have to maybe, start using it. But if I was a business and I'm looking for the one way to really personalize my brand, I want to take one step back and say, you have to do the discovery work. You have to do the foundational work first. And what I mean by that is find out who your brand is. If it's a personal brand like yours, it's pretty easy to personalize and humanize a personal brand because your face can be on everything, your energy, pictures of brand photos of you. It's easier. It's a little bit more difficult when you're trying to personalize and humanize a business or a bigger brand.
Yes.
And like we spoke about earlier, there has definitely been a paradigm shift where we don't do business with company logos. We do business with people. And many years ago, we had a smaller agency and we were talking to corporates about basically humanizing your brand. I'm talking 2005. And the whole point of it was to bring the face of the company out from behind the company logo. Stop hiding behind the company logo. And this was when social media started becoming like mainstream and a thing, and businesses were saying, how do we use this new social media for our business to market and connect with people and our audience? Well, the first step is you have to humanize your brand, because consumers don't want to connect with the logo. They want to connect with the team, the energy of the team, the CEO, the owner, the founder. Who are they? Who are these people? What's important to them? Do I like their vibe? Do I like what they stand for? Do I like how they operate as a business? I can only see that and get that kind of essence of the company and the organization or the person if they are infusing their brand, their website, their copy, their visuals with their people, with their energy. If it's jargon, like a brochure type website with a logo, it's very difficult for me to discern what's the energy, who are the people behind this? Can I get a sense for them? And I know I digress a little bit on the question, but it leads me to think about something else. There's a book called Blink by Malcolm Gladwell. And in the book, he talks about literally how we make up a first impression of a person. Within 7 seconds, we have got a complete sense of who this person is. 7 seconds. Within a tenth of a second, we can already discern, can I trust this person or not? Can I trust this brand or not? Now, if it's that quick that we make up our minds, then it would be in our best interest to actually bring who we are to the fore, so that our consumers or potential clients, when they look at our presence online, they can make that decision. Do I gel with this person? Do I gel with this business? So it's almost like it's a filtering process, and it goes both ways. It filters from the client's perspective, or the potential client that's viewing your presence. They can say, you know what, I like what I see here. I like Josh's energy. I can quickly watch a video. I can see a picture of him. I get a sense of who he is. I like him. Let me take the next step, which means you getting a better person ending up on the other side because you've already done some filtering. And for them, it's also better. They don't have to waste a call to a faceless, cold, sterile company to find out only on the call that the consultant's energy and what they stand for doesn't resonate with them. So,
great point. Face cold, sterile, faceless company. That is what a lot of bigger agencies and companies do often in marketing. And it's so interesting. I think it's good that you're making a differentiation between like freelancers or personal branded folks versus bigger companies, because I think the challenges are very different. That is, the question I asked you about what you might want to do first is probably very different depending on the situation. Great call on that. Interestingly enough, I just had the community manager from Gravity Forms. You use Gravity Forms, right? For your form, or do you use?
I don't.
Okay, I was thinking use. So Gravity Forms is the form plugin that I use, and they're one of the top in the WordPress market, but they are currently trying to humanize their brand. Before, nobody really knew who was behind Gravity Forms. They were just known as one of the best form builders. So I found it really interesting. He was back on episode 148, and we talked about their push to humanize the brand. And he was doing interviews with the owners and the co-founders and stuff. And I think a lot of companies are doing that on a larger scale. I would say if I had to give a larger company advice who is currently cold, stiff, and sterile, and there's no personality, I would say just start with an about page or a team page. Just give an option for your clients to know who the heck is behind this company. It could be as simple as that to start, right?
Absolutely. And I'm glad, I know I digressed, but to answer your question, absolutely. That is one of the first and I suppose easiest way to bring the people to the fore, and not just the CEO, the entire team. But let's talk about smaller businesses. I mean, you need to feature on the about page. And obviously, if you have like contractors or maybe other team members or your cat or your dog, that's your companion. I know you've got, I think you had your dog somewhere featured.
On my agency site. Yeah.
Exactly.
She was customer relations for a little while. Yeah.
Exactly. So if you're feeling lonely, just pull in, one of your fur friends. I'm sure they'll love the extra exposure. You can maybe even get an Instagram account for them and, rake up the followers like that, because animals do really well finding followers. So 2 things I'll mention here. One, definitely what you said. An easy win is to have an about page or a team page, meet the team. And here you feature their photographs and just what they do at the company. It can actually just be designation, or it can be a little blurb. And this springs to mind, a business that I've just worked with. It's a restaurant, two sisters who own this restaurant, and they've got a team of 13 staff. And this is exactly what we did. They have such a fantastic, authentic shop. They're really busy. People love the two sisters' energy, but also their staff has this contagious, friendly. They have amazing food. It's really a lovely experience. So the idea with them was, let's bring that energy onto the website. Beautiful. Let's bring the sisters to the fore. Let's take pictures of all 13 staff and show them on Meet the Team. Let's write a blog post that shows the journey of how this company, this restaurant got founded and everything around it. We have another blog where we do announcements of each new team member that joins the team and a little story about them. When you go to that website, you don't know them at all. You get their energy from just purely the website, seeing the stories, reading the pictures. And we're not even using video yet. We'll get there. This is the first step. But when you arrive at that restaurant, even though they don't know you, you will feel as if you know the two sisters, you know their journey, you know their story, and you know all the staff. That just takes it to another level, as opposed to just the logo and here's the restaurant and here's our menu and here's our food.
Yes. So such a great point. You just said it right there. You said you get to know them. And the big three with getting clients, here it is, everybody. The big three keys to getting clients is know, like, and trust. So if you can get somebody to get to know you before they even meet you, before they ever book a call, before they ever reach out, that you're already 30% there. If you can get them to like you by all the personalization that you have on your site, which no client is going to like somebody by just seeing what they do. That's not like, if I saw that Lisa did logo branding and web design, that's cool, but I'm not going to necessarily like you as a person yet, because I don't know anything past that. But if you have personalization in there and I find out that you have these passions and this is what you're into, then maybe I will. Like, I like Lisa. She seems like a really great person. Now all that's left is trust. And trust can be earned with content and things that in videos and things that you might post later on, but know and like, you can just do with personalization, with just a little bit of personalization. I'm not talking about massive branding campaigns with tons of different studio images and anything like that. I'm talking about as simple as a real picture of you, whether it's professional or just you in your office, a little bit of personalization. Like if you have like I had my golden retriever on our team page. And then if you do have a team page, have everything on there. And what's really interesting about that, Lisa, is you did mention my team page for my agency. That was the third most popular page on In Transit Studios. And I think still is. I haven't looked at the analytics in a while, but it was the third most popular. My most popular was my homepage. The second was the portfolio. And the third was the team, which told me, numbers don't lie, a lot of potential clients were interested in who is behind In Transit Studios, who's behind this company. So that is a practical case study of how important it is to have your team page. And one thing I do want to say, for smaller agencies who feel like, or maybe even if it's just a solopreneur who may hire out with a few people, don't be afraid to put them on your team page. You don't have to say they're your full-time team members. What I did was I just had a little blurb that says collaborates occasionally. And I'll just say, this is such and such, and he collaborates on certain projects like this. This is such and such. She collaborates when we do projects like this. It could be as simple as that. And that goes such a long way. Have you seen any other tips like that for maybe freelancers, web designers, and smaller agencies that have worked other than just a team page?
I'm going to mention something which, again, I'm not doing, but I mean, it's a tool that have just revolutionized the world. And if you really want to build authenticity with some of the digital tools we have at our disposal, then you need to use stories on social networks. I know a lot of people go 24 hours and the content is gone. I think you said that too.
Yes, I totally did.
I'm going to put all this effort into creating content and it's gone in 24 hours. What's the point? Right. I want to tell you, it's amazing. I mean, if you watch stories, sometimes I just watch stories in a row. it gives me such a behind the scenes vibe for the people and stories. People, because it only lasts for 24 hours, you don't have to be overly polished and have the lights. And, it can really be off the cuff and just natural. This is what's going on. It's very relaxed. It's very casual. Obviously, you always want to be professional. Yes. But you don't have to be, you can be, it's a behind the scenes. It's
a good point.
I'll bring you into my lounge and let's have a cup of coffee. It's more of a fireside chat than I'm here to do a tutorial video. So I'm wearing that hat and it's a slightly different persona. It's a lot more relaxed. So it's a brilliant way for companies to actually infuse their brands with personality, to use stories.
That's a great point and a good challenge for me, Lisa, because I haven't utilized stories as much. I am not the best with social media. It's not my skill set or my area of expertise. I did recently start my Instagram, which is still really small right now, but I am enjoying it. Actually, I do like the vibe of Instagram a lot more than Facebook and some other places. Yes. It's you can't give a thumbs down and there's much less polarization and stuff. It's a nice place to be generally. What I'm trying to kind of balance, and maybe I've always, kind of coached you, but I might have you coach me here. And the question would be, how much personalization is too much? Or is it possible to get a little too personal when we are mixing real life and business? And I have really thought about this recently because I have 2 daughters and I'm a little, and we get weird requests sometimes. Like I remember when I was just married, my wife was in the business and I was posting a lot of pictures of us and socials. And because I had a YouTube channel that was growing, she started getting weird requests and that bothered me. And then I was like, okay, we might need, like, how much do I want to put her face in the business? Now I'm even more so leery about that with my little ones. I mean, as you know, I'm very open about my family life and stuff, but I am balancing how much do I want to put my personal life into stories, into something public facing. So what are your thoughts on that, with how to balance personal and business and how far to go with that?
Yeah, it's, again, interesting question. And I think it's so different, again, for a personal brand and a company. The lines blur for a personal brand because you're often, around things that are part of your personal life too, your home office, your children are around, etc. But I do think you need to give this careful thought, and you need to have boundaries in place where there are just certain things that you will not share and you make that decision. It's what's important to you as a person and what's going to build your brand. With all these things, I think often what can happen, we have shiny new object syndrome. So because everybody's on social, we need to be on social. Because there's a new social network, I need to be there. No, that is not how it is. There's a couple of questions you have to ask before you get to choosing the technology or choosing the tools. You have to ask yourself, well, firstly, what are my objectives for my brand? And could this technology help me reach those objectives? That's the first thing. Secondly, the people that I am trying to reach and connect with, where are they?
Yes, well said.
I mean, there's no point in us saying, let's rush off to TikTok. My question to you is, are the people that you want to do business with, that you want to reach, are they on TikTok? Because if they're not, you're just going to waste your time and your energy, which doesn't make any sense. And then what is the strategy? I mean, you need to know, where are the people? What are your objectives? What's your strategy? How are you going to use this? And the strategy meaning, how many times are you going to post? What kind of content are you going to create? How are you going to engage with the community? Because I so often see brands using social media as a one-way communication channel. So let's blast our message because it's another marketing channel, and the comments don't get responses. That is the worst thing that you can do. It's like a person coming into your shop saying, that's a great product. And you just stand there, poker face, and you don't say anything. It's the same.
Great analogy. Yeah.
You have to comment. You have to be willing to engage. So that comes in with the strategy part, your question where you said, well, how much do I share that's personal and how much do I share that's business? I think it's going to come back to, what is my strategy? Where am I connecting with people? What are my objectives? And what am I willing to share here? Because yes, we want to bring our personal brand into it. We want to bring our energy and our humanness by showing we have a life. But I do think we also require boundaries. There are certain things I will never share online. And it's a rule I'm not going to break. So once you've done that and you've got that understanding of who you are and what you want to represent and what kind of feelings and emotions you want to evoke and who you want to connect with, then I think it's easier to say, well, what I'm about to post on social media, does it fit in with my brand guidelines that I've set for myself? If that answers the question.
It does. It does. I think just the simple idea of knowing the strategy, knowing where your clients are, knowing where and how you should get to them, that will help determine those boundaries. Because for me, looking at my brand right now, the family aspect is a biggie. I'm attracting a lot of folks who are, have young kids and are in a similar path to me. Now, not everyone, like I've got students, as you know, in all different age groups and life paths and journeys and everything. But I definitely made it a point to show enough about my family. That way people knew I was a family guy. And I now what is interesting is I have different boundaries for the club with you and the other members than I do with Facebook or Instagram, because how many times have I brought my girls up on a Q&A because they're outside my door? I'm not going to do that on a podcast or something. Now, I do post pictures of the girls occasionally. Like if I ever go to a coffee shop with one of my daughters and we might be there, maybe I'll post something like that. Or if we're on a walk, I might do that, but it's a little less frequent. But that is powerful. And some of the mentors that I have both post their family, not all the time, but they just kind of sprinkle it in. So that's kind of my motto. I think that's a really good path you set out for us, though, Lisa, with knowing the strategy. That's going to help determine where you're going to post potential content and use your personalization and brand authenticity. And then you can set those boundaries from there, because you'll know, okay, the way I post something on Instagram may be a little bit different than Twitter or TikTok or whatever. Like I've tried to kind of be leery about the draw to those shiny new objects too. Like I don't have Twitter, no TikTok, no Clubhouse, not interested in any of that. I can barely handle Facebook and Instagram with everything else I'm doing. So that's kind of my limit. And I think that's actually potentially another good segue to limiting yourself with the type of content and personalization you want to do. It's probably good to limit yourself with how many places you're at with your personalization, right? Like that's one thing I've had to really reel in. Like, how many platforms am I going to be on? You can't be on everything. You can't be everywhere to everybody.
I mean, if you're not a large agency and you have several people producing content for all those channels, then you can't do it. Physically, you can't do it. It's just too much work. So, again, my question to you is, or what I want to add to this is, if you are going to be on a social network, then you're going to have to do a really good job of actually being there and being consistent. Because here's the thing, you're going to have to be able to show up consistently, day in, day out, day in, day out. If you can't maintain that, then you would have wasted the time that you spent in the beginning trying to set it up in any case. So again, I think part of the strategy should be, where are my people? Who am I trying to connect with? Am I going to get the results that I'm looking for through using these platforms? Because if it's not moving the needle, and I'm not saying, we should do everything to move the needle, but we should, if you know what I mean. We're not going to overtly be marketing on social media, because that's not what it's about. It's more like a cocktail party. We're more connecting. We're warming up. We're showing people who we are. We're building our brands. It's awareness for what you do and who you are. And that kind of naturally evolves into some clients, because people will know, like, and trust you through those platforms. And then eventually they go through, maybe your website and they get you to create something for them, or they enroll in one of your courses, etc. But one of the other things you mentioned earlier, I think, is critical. And I see a lot of this happen. And that's where I feel comfortable, are closed communities. That's the perfect place for you to also build your brand. You don't have to be on networks that faces the entire world. You don't have to. Again, it depends on what are you trying to achieve, where are you comfortable, where are you going to get the best results for your time, the investment of your time, and it's not only, again, to create business, but where will you learn the most? Where will you make the best connections? Where will you and your club is a perfect example of this. It's a safe place. It's a community of people. Yes, we don't know each other intimately, but we can get to know each other intimately because it's a safe space and it's closed.
Yeah.
So you can actually be a bit more comfortable in sharing, photos of the girls or bringing them onto the video, because it's not going to come under scrutiny or trolls or whatever else is out there.
And I'm not like, who is this guy that just, right. Like, who is this guy? Like, I know, like, they remember that is such a good point. And it is interesting whether it is someplace like my Web Design Club, which is a closed community, or whether it is a private Facebook group or a membership that you're in, or like a meetup network. A lot of times there's new meetup networks with Divi or WordPress where you get to know people if you see them regularly. Those are great examples. I think often just to dip your toe into personalization, because it's sometimes tough to do a video or to put yourself out there to the masses. But going back to what we both talked about earlier, if you do it one step at a time, start small with people you're already comfortable with, what a powerful way to get into personalization. And it really does go a long way. And I was actually thinking, there's a lot of different ways to personalize that we've already covered. And I should say too, I just posted recently episode 150, which is 10 tips on how to personalize. So if anyone hasn't listened to that episode, go back, because it's a little more like a, there's a 1 through 10 ideas that we've kind of integrated in here. But there is something about just being real nowadays that I think is more powerful than ever, because one thing that I've seen in both personal life and in business life, there's been a massive shift over the past few years. And I truly believe that people are starving for authenticity. You already said it, Lisa. It doesn't have to be super polished. It doesn't have to be, like it was 50 years ago. I think what's more important now is you're just real and you're open about what your mission is, who you are, who you help. I think that should be really freeing for sales. Like, do you feel that the more personalized you get, the easier it is to sell? Because that's definitely how I felt. It takes the stress away from being that sweaty salesman, because you're just you. This is what I do. This is who I am.
Exactly. It's going to be easier for you. And you know what? You're not going to get into clients that you've taken on board because you weren't real and you weren't authentic. And then down the line, you see, oh my gosh, we're actually not a fit. And now it's an uncomfortable, not an enjoyable experience for both parties, and actually unfair to the client, if I must be honest.
Great
if
point.
You were real from the beginning, and maybe you're quirky and maybe you're funny and maybe you're a little over the top, as long as you're a professional, it doesn't matter what your energy is or, the little quirks you have. There are people out there that will resonate with that. They will. You will find each other and you will be happy. It's like a match made in heaven. It's almost like, when we're finding a partner, there's this, and this is the other thing that maybe we can touch on briefly is, we online, when you're putting yourself out there in your brand, you can't go from a handshake to a marriage proposal. And that's also what a lot of brands are trying to do. It's like push my message, push what I want to do. I want you to buy my products, et cetera, et cetera. That's not what we want. We want attraction marketing. You want people to come your way, not pushing your messages onto them. And the way you do that is you are you. And like you said, it's not a lot of work to just be you. Just be real. You don't have to freak out. Oh my gosh, now I have to put up this persona of something that I portrayed on my website that I'm actually not. And now it's hard for me and I'm battling. And down the line, I may run out of steam and I can't uphold that persona. And then I get found out. And then trust goes out the window and client is unhappy. And actually, the client I attracted is a client that likes the persona I had and not who I really am.
Yes. Wow. I didn't even think we were going to get into relationships and dating here in this conversation, but that is 100% true. How many people have basically just worn a mask just to attract somebody, and then, you go further in relationship, or God forbid you get married, and then suddenly that mask comes off and it's like, oh, I'm not who I said I was, or this person isn't who he or she said she was. Like that's so true in personal life and in business too. Like that is definitely the case. I think a lot of times web designers in particular will try to put up a front like they're a big agency, and then they get hired, and then suddenly the client finds out that it's just one person, and then maybe they aren't as well suited for this huge project. And I'm totally fine with solopreneurs. I was for a long time, but there's no there's no reason you should there's no reason you should come across false and have a fake version of what you are in the setup of your business. There's no reason for that nowadays. So what a great point, because if you enter in any sort of relationship, personal or business, not being yourself, chances are, I would say 100% chances are, it ain't going to end well.
Exactly. For either parties. So let's just be yourself. And like you said, the world is craving that. People are craving just real connections, not polished, not overly produced, not fake, not cold and sterile, just warm, human to human. And you know what? Here's the other thing that we need to realize. You do not have to be everything to everyone. You really don't. You do not need to do business with everybody that reaches out to you. You can be selective, and you should. I know sometimes we're hard up for clients, and we've all made this mistake. We've said yes, but our gut said, this is not the right fit. Right. This person does not gel with me. And we said yes, only to regret it for months afterwards, because now they locked into your process and you have to complete a project and it's painful. So don't try and be everything to everybody. What
a great point.
Be real. Step into your power as an individual. Like I mentioned earlier, your uniqueness, your experience that you're bringing to the party, your skill set, your unique view of the world, and how, you distill it and how you present it and help others do the same. But that's not going to be a match to a certain segment of the population. It's not going to be everybody. And be okay with that, because that's fine. I was listening to a podcast the other day, and this guy was talking about, he's a very successful brand strategist, and he's built like a extremely successful career over 25 years. And he made the comment that his entire career was built on 4 people that he initially did projects with. But by staying real, throughout this process, being himself, obviously you've got to do good work, obviously, that is a part of the equation. And if you're not as good as you would like to be, then take Josh's course and become better and just enroll in courses and improve your skill set, practice. But if you do that and you offer a really great personalized service to a handful of people, you can be busy for 25 years on referral business.
Yeah. It's so true. And especially for web designers, that's one reason I love web design. You don't need to get a new client every week. You can do a really damn good job for a dozen clients, and then eventually a couple dozen clients, and you can get to a healthy income for whatever you want to do in your life. And you could scale it, or you could keep it right where you like it. You could minify things, you could scale, you could go larger, you could do whatever you want, which is super freeing and so awesome. That's such a great point. And I think that's where, if the more real you are, the more authentic you are, your vibe attracts your tribe, and the better relationships you have with your good clients that you actually want to work with. If you pursue them and add more value to them, that will help grow your business. And you don't need to be that sleazy salesman, and you don't need to worry about that whole side of the business as much. Like I look at my journey as a web designer for over a decade, and there were times where I was too focused on getting new clients, and I had a handful of amazing clients that I kind of wish I would have just sunk more and invested more into. I know they would have bought more services from me. I know they would have paid more. I know they would have been open to a lot more things that I would have offered them, but I just didn't. And it took me, unfortunately, a little later in my career when I look back and realized, like, wow, I kind of, they were still clients of mine, and I hate to say like I didn't milk them enough. That's not what I'm talking about, but you want to add more value. And I think the more real, going back to this conversation of branding and authenticity, the more real you are, the better connections and deeper connections you'll make with your real clients, which is key. I actually wanted to ask you, Lisa, because I'm curious. You said that a lot of your clients, actually all of them, are abroad. I'm guessing you had to be authentic and personalizing your branding to attract them if they never met you in person, right? Like, how did some of these relationships come about, and how did you use this idea of authentic branding to help land clients that are abroad that never met you in person?
Okay, so they're not all abroad, but what I mean, they're not in my physical location. So obviously, South Africa, a lot of clients in South Africa, and then I've got a couple now in the UK. But I think for me, it started out with a friend. Build a website for a friend. Often we start there. Many a web designer story starts like that. And, again, just made sure that I over-delivered. And I really, brought my experience of my life and kind of where I was at, where I wanted to help other women to step into their power and tell their stories in an authentic way. Everything we spoke about today, basically I did, to help her build this online presence in terms of her website. And that just spun off to two other clients, which were referrals from her. But then I would connect with them very soon on a Zoom call. That's how I would do it. I would not handle that on email, because to me, that's a warm lead. I need to get to see them and they need to get to see me so that I can immediately, exchange like kind of energy blueprints with each other and see if we're a fit. And that just resulted in more business, more websites that I built. And kind of every single site I've built have had at least one other woman that have come through a site I've built, sometimes 2 or 3. So that's what I've done. I've just tried to connect with these women very soon in the process, always on a Zoom call. And yes, I can't jump in a car and go visit them or, go see them for a quick meeting. I know a lot of people work in their physical location still. I know COVID changed that a lot because it was actually a good thing in a sense, because it showed people that you don't need to get in a car. Yes. You can achieve the same, if not more, and be more productive and handle more if you use technology, because you don't have to commute. And I mean, you're in and out with a meeting. There's no chit-chatting in the front and chit-chatting at the end, and there's no commute. So you can achieve a lot more. And if someone needs to cancel a meeting, you haven't blocked out 3 hours for the commute and the meeting and going back. You can actually just carry on because you're already at your laptop and you're more productive and more effective. So yes, it was just putting myself out there in terms of, I think, getting back to the impact I want to make and getting into my essence and my goals of what I want to achieve. And one of that is to really help women to tell their stories in an authentic way and to help them use digital tools and a visually aesthetic brand that's beautiful and feminine and infused with their energy, and translating that into a website eventually. That to me was very important in imparting that knowledge and that kind of almost a picture, a promise of how this could be for them on a Zoom. So that to me was
on
key,
a Zoom.
And has always been.
That's what's so interesting. Like, there was a really simple strategy you had, which was you started with a friend. You were, I'm sure, very real and personal and authentic with her, which helped her attract the right people to bring to you. And you differ from a lot of web designers in the fact that you wanted to get on a Zoom, you wanted to get on a call. I know a lot of web designers are leery about that. I would encourage everyone to do that more in the early days. Like, sure, you can scale your processes, and as you get more comfortable on camera and stuff, you can bypass potential discovery calls by having videos and stuff. But what you did, since you are a quality over quantity type of setup and person, which is awesome. I feel you there. So what was really cool is that by just going the Zoom route early on, you were able to build those relationships by being real, sharing your passion and your vision, like you just said. And I think a lot of web designers tend to want to be the low touch. Like, I don't even want to take a call from a web designer. I just want them, or from a client. I just want them to find me, go through my form, and then pick a template, and then we'll do the content. I don't even want to talk to them ever. And web designers are doing that. You can do that. However, if you do, it's going to take a completely different sales strategy. It's going to be much harder to build trust and likability and authority, because there's not too many clients nowadays that want that type of service. Most clients want to have somebody they know, like, and trust. And I'd venture to say a very high percentage of a typical business owner, no matter where they are in the world, want to be able to talk to their web designer. Now, we just recently had Emma Kate on, who is one of our colleagues who I love Emma and what she's up to. And we talked about boundaries with clients because that does come into play. You definitely kind of like what we talked about with setting boundaries with how much you're going to personalize yourself. You do need to set boundaries with how personal you're going to get with clients. But the more you do that, the deeper relationships you'll make. And the suddenly, again, going back to the less you have to sell, because you've got really good clients who are very rarely going to leave you if you keep doing what you say you're going to do and you're going to add good value. So I just wanted to make that point because some people, again, want to go the opposite route from you, Lisa, and you can, but just know it's probably going to be a lot more work. It's honestly a lot easier just to be you, just to be real, get on a Zoom call, and you will build so much trust in that little window. And you are a shining example of that. I love that. I know you looked kind of like it's kind of a simple answer, but it was a simple way to get your business started. And that's often the best. So like, what a great little case study and look into the window of what you did, which was just get that personal high touch pretty quick.
Yeah. And I do understand, it can become an issue where you're saying, okay, so it's an hour, because normally they're an hour call that, how many hours can I fit in? And what if they don't become a client? Then I've spent or wasted an hour, on Zoom. But again, it depends on who you're dealing with. It depends on the target market. I am looking for high-end woman that's quite established in her business already, or, she's wanting to transition into something. It's not typically a startup or smaller. Do you understand? People that just want to, it's a woman that wants the high touch. And because, I don't only do website, I actually do a whole brand discovery process with my clients where we go into mission and visions. We go into, the essence of who she is. We look at, what is her brand going to represent? What are her superpowers? That discovery work, it's quite intimate work. So therefore, it's a match for me to set the tone when I'm working with a woman. I cannot do that via text. So yes, I could possibly do it as a video, that someone can work through without me doing it live. Absolutely. And maybe I'll get to that. But for now, it's working, so I'm not messing with that recipe at the moment.
Yes. And you've been through my business course. You know what I teach on how to funnel. You want to you essentially, just for everyone's, give you my insight on funneling potential clients. You want to separate qualified leads from questionable leads. The questionable people that come through, they go through more of an automated process. But a qualified person, like in your case, Lisa, again, your quality over quantity. So yeah, you can absolutely take an hour Zoom call if you're only doing one a week or one every couple of weeks. Like, sure, that's very manageable. Now, if you were getting 10 inquiries a day, of course, you can't take 10 calls a day. Yeah. But with the way your business is set up, that's the beauty about that. And what I would say is, I would just do that. Separate the questionable leads from the qualified leads. And just anyone who hasn't been through my business course, you can set up a potential client page or a weed out type of page. It just shares a little bit about you being personal, a personal video, or just about your business and your packages or whatever. And then if they get through that, then suddenly they're a qualified lead. Then you could set up a call to really take it to the next level. So there's a lot of ways to go about that from a service perspective. And I know one thing that I implemented last year, actually maybe in the year before, and I think you've been on the receiving end of this, is a personal video when a new student signs up for a course. I forget where this idea originated from, but I think I had just heard some podcasts about the power of just short videos. And I thought, man, if I signed up for a course, if the creator sent me a quick video and just welcomed me in, like how amazing would that feel to me? So that's what I started doing. And it is time consuming sometimes. What I tend to do is just do it once or twice a week. I'll let them, and then I'll just cook through like 20 or 30 videos. And that little personalization technique has been a game changer for my business. Cause did I send you one when you joined a course, or did I start it shortly after that? Okay,
absolutely.
Yeah.
I thought this is a first. This is absolutely a first. It's brilliant. And I have to commend you on that. And that's one tip that I got from you in your business course about sending personalized videos with proposals. game changer for me, because so many of the women, yes, I do a Zoom with them up front before the proposal, so they already get my energy. But even doing the video with the walkthrough of the proposal, so many of them have said to me, how novel. I've never received a proposal in this way. So it is really impressive, because firstly, it shows again your personality. It shows you care. Of course, you've got to be genuine when you do it, because again, people smell a rat. Just be genuine when you are doing it. But I mean, it is really a high touch technique that will separate you from the rest.
And that's the biggie. I was just going to ask you how this helps us separate ourselves from the competition. That little trick in particular, those little videos that you include alongside a proposal or an onboarding sequence, those are the biggies. Those are the things that people really remember, because a lot of people do discovery calls and Zoom calls. That's not technically super novel, but not too many people, like you said, are doing a video with a proposal, and just like adding that extra little bit of personal touch. Like, hey, I'm really looking forward with the opportunity to work with you. Here's a quick overview of the proposal just to fill you in on, just kind of give you an understanding of what this is. It's not like, here's everything you're going to get with this project, and it's only $19.99. You know, we're not talking about that.
It's not like an ad.
No, it's not an ad. It's just, it would be like, and because I know a lot of people listening might still be like, well, I'm still, even if I'm not comfortable on even just sending a voiceover or any sort of like screen share, what I would say is imagine yourself, and I'd be curious to get your thoughts about this with how to personalize those little communications. My thought is, if you were to sit down with your potential client and you just had about a minute or two to just show them, you know, the proposal, and you said, so here's the main goals. This is what the objective is. And then here's this, you know, the list of deliverables that are going to be included. And then, you know, here's some final information. And this is what, you know, this is what the total is going to be. And then it's like, here's, you know, I'm really, really excited about the opportunity to work with you guys. And I really can't wait for the chance to help bring your brand to life. In your case, Lisa, to get your vision and mission across, and to help you come across online, and then eventually, you know, be your partner in crime to help you build your business moving forward. That's what I would say. Something like that. If I were sitting with somebody, you know, in person. Have you ever thought about that? Or do you have any tips for people who are wondering, like, what should I be like when I send those small little videos, whether it's a thank you video or a proposal video or any of those little touch points?
Well, if you've been listening, you should be you. Just be you. Yeah. So don't try to be salesy. You know, don't try and clinch the deal. Just be you. Like, how would you, you know, explain to the person? I mean, I don't go through everything word for word, because that's boring. They can read that. Right, I give them just a high level overview of what are we going to be doing? What will we be achieving for your brand? But then I do something that I think is a little different, because remember, I do the branding part too. I show what a mood board looks like. I show how that translates into a logo. I show how that translates eventually into a brand style guide, and then a website. So it's kind of a small little visual thing I add while I talk about the proposal, just because I have my brand discovery package plus website is normally what my proposal includes. Gotcha. So that helps to take the focus off the proposal and more on the deliverables of this is what your brand could look like when we do this process with you. Well, so maybe there's another way of, you know, doing that with websites too, just showing something visual. But I must also say to you, you know, my videos can sometimes be a little long, and I want to work on making them shorter, because I feel shorter is better. But because I'm showing a little bit of the brand discovery process and some visuals, it takes a bit longer.
Well, and it's also, it's a little different with your service, Lisa, because you are an intensive type of service. You are working with somebody who you're going to make a big impact on their life and business, and they're likely going to be with you for a very long time. So if they can't sit through a 5 to 10 minute video that's just about to pull the trigger, then I don't know if they would necessarily be the best fit, because that's a huge deal. If I'm going to trust somebody to design my logo, do my branding, do my colors, help me with vision and mission and content and copy, and then also do the website, That's a lot. So yes, of course, I want to have a more intentional onboarding and funneling kind of period. So that makes total sense. But I think even for web designers, that same idea. Yeah, we are a service business. We're a lot different than an auto mechanic who's going to change your brakes or change your oil. Like they don't need to be like, okay, I'm going to walk you through how we're going to do the oil change. And then I'm showing up, change my oil. I don't care. I'm getting ready to get out of here. That's there's a completely different businesses like that compared to services like a creative service. So this is where I dare say this is 101. This is necessary to get ahead nowadays, is to personalize as much as you can in your business with all the tips that we've talked about so far. I am curious, how are you on time, by the way, Lisa? I meant to ask, are you tight on time or anything?
No, I'm good. I have a few more minutes.
Okay. Because I wanted to ask you about this. It just came up. I thought about it earlier. I wanted to bring this up. When you are going to personalize your business, when you have subcontractors or a team, this is what's kind of tricky. And this is why I think as a business, if you have your mission and your values and stuff in place, it's really good. But I know a lot of people are somewhat leery about like, well, if I have my subcontractor, talking to clients, how I want to make sure they represent me and my brand. And I want to publicly thank you for something you said for the Web Design Club when we started doing member calls, because I had a lot of people who weren't able to make the weekly Q&A, and there was a bigger need for people who wanted to connect weekly or every other week or once a month with other members. And so what we did is we initiated these member calls. As of right now, there's 3 calls a week in my club where all members can join. You said something that was really interesting and profound to me, which was, you said, Josh, because I did just for everyone's reference, I did a call with my closest colleagues in the club, which was, you were one of them, Lisa. And you asked me, are you a little worried about people, leading a call and misrepresenting your brand? And of course, the branding gal you are, I love that question because I thought it was so respectful of me and what I've built here. But it was a good point. I didn't really think about that until you mentioned that. Same thing can apply to businesses who grow. It's like, if they're going to grow a team, are they leery about these, even one subcontractor not representing their brand? I guess the question would be, well, so first of all, I just want to say thank you for that. I thought that was super thoughtful. Secondly, how do we combat that? Like, is it just a matter of almost being more real and authentic with our team and people who work with us? Is that maybe a way to help that? Because I think it's an interesting problem a lot of people face if they scale at any level.
Yeah, two things spring to mind. I think one, like you said, it's about culture, I suppose, at the end of the day. What's the culture of your team? How are you? It's a difficult question to answer because I don't really work with, very large companies per se. So I don't know if I will be able to give you the correct answer, but let's try this. I think your culture of who you are, you're going to have to find some way of imparting that with your contractors or your employees so that they don't misrepresent you when they are on a call. That's going to be critical. Or dilute your brand. I think that's the word I used when the member calls came up. It's, will this not dilute your brand? You have to be protective of your brand. You have to be almost like a mama bear over her cubs because you have worked so hard at building this. It takes a lot of energy. It takes a lot of investment to build a brand, but it takes, just in the blink of an eye, you can destroy it or you can, break it down. So that's a very important question, I think, to ask. For me, I'm quite protective. I also have a contractor that I work with now, and at the moment, how I've structured it, I'm still working with the client. So, it's a white labeling arrangement. And I don't see that changing right now. It may change in future, but at the moment, I think you're in a better position to answer the question you've asked.
Oh, no, that's great. That's great feedback right there. Just protecting. I think just the idea of protecting your brand is something a lot of people neglect or overthink. A lot of people are sometimes so busy, they're just quick to scale and they forget about what they've built. So I think what you said is perfect. I think that's a great answer. There's a lot of good, really foundational points that we can often overlook if we're busy or if we're scattered or if we haven't maybe respected our own brand enough. I forget if you watched the recent Q&A we did in the club, but one of our members, Sandy, is starting to scale, and she had asked me, and she said, it's always been me, so I'm a little leery about scaling. I don't want someone to basically misrepresent my brand. And I told her the same thing. They don't need to be client facing yet. They can report to you.
Exactly.
So you can you can be the one to have control if you start to scale. And then once you feel like they do reflect you, then you can bring them client facing.
For sure. And I think, this should be with all brands, but I mean, especially with my brand, because I'm so hands-on, because it's such a personal experience, because I work so deeply with my clients, I have to protect that with everything because it's just important. And this goes for any client. I mean, you want to protect that relationship. So yes, have subcontractors, but you oversee, obviously they work, it's quality control, it's your brand at the end of the day. I mean, if the subcontractor does a shoddy job, client doesn't know about subcontractor, it's on you. So you've got to remain hands-on, in my opinion, with the subcontractors. And then next, again, like you mentioned, you handle client queries initially. I know later maybe you scale to such a size where you can't do that anymore. But then maybe by then you've got a couple of people around you that have bought into, your ethos, your philosophies and your kind of brand essence, and they can actually represent you in that way. I think your club has become a little bit like that. Like, because people in the club have been around you for a while, they kind of know Josh's energy and there's a certain kind of, I suppose, energy and what flies and what doesn't, that organically happens.
Yeah.
And people will stay within that kind of sphere. And if anybody's out of line, the rest will most probably get that person in line. So yes, I just think you need to protect. You can scale, no problem, but don't scale so fast that you're handing over critical pieces or processes with your client that will just be a complete fail if you hand it over to someone that doesn't have you at the core or your brand. They don't have that blueprint kind of embodied yet, if I can call it that.
Yeah. And people, when you're the leader of a business, no matter what size it is, even if you just have one subcontractor, they will look at what you're doing and how you're communicating. When I hired Jonathan and he became my lead web designer, he started talking like me in Basecamp and stuff, which is really cool. Like he wasn't being fake or anything, but he started kind of assuming how I would talk to clients and stuff. And it was really cool. And what I found is that you kind of tend to mimic the people who are in charge, which is really good, but you cannot forget the importance of, like you just said, the business and your value and all those things that are often easily overlooked because not many people set up a mission statement or their values. Most web designers, I didn't. It was years before I did that because I didn't really plan on starting a business. So that is really important. I know one thing that I did in the case of the member calls that really helped is I just made a little handbook. I forget if you have seen that, Lisa, but it's just a little 3-page document that says this is what the calls are about. This is how it should be handled. This is as if you're going to host a call, this is, very simplistically, this is what I expect. And, we're not talking about in depth about what you can and cannot talk about or anything, but these are just the guidelines to abide by. Just a little handbook. And the idea for creating that was when I was a blogger for Elegant Themes, that's what they sent me through. In order to become a blogger, I went through their handbook, which expressed a lot of the similar things. And then I knew exactly what I was going to do and what I was expected to do and how I should come across and how it was community empowering. And it was all about helping and that really helped. So it could be as simple as that. It could be a Google Doc that you just put together. It's just a handbook that people go through, right? Absolutely. Like it doesn't have to be anything wild or complex. It could be as simple as, here's a little one pager on a document, a Google Doc.
I'm actually glad you raised that because, I put together a brand style board or a brand style guide that shows my client, once the brand has been developed, this is your logo, this is your color palette, these are the brand typography, brand fonts, these are patterns, this is how you use those, the different variations of your logo, the different colors, this is how you would use it all together so that there can be consistency when they take over, or if they get another designer on board to design something for them down the line. There's this guidelines, so that it stays consistent and congruent and it doesn't get broken down. Same here. Have a small guidebook, like you've just said. Give some guidance. Doesn't have to be a rigid, 5,000 page book that people are like, oh my gosh, I can't do anything.
Right.
Just a little bit distilling your essence. What's your brand voice? What are your values? What are you trying to achieve? And how they can embody that when they're with clients. But I think what you touched on is key. We have to remember, I think this is really critical, that people come to us for business. So especially if you're a personal brand, they come to you. So be careful when you scale to not lose you in the process with the client relationship, because then you might lose some of your, I don't know, some of your success or some of your essence or some of your personalization may be gone if you remove yourself completely. And you now become business manager, if you understand what I'm
I totally do. I had to balance that when I did grow a smaller team. I was never a massive agency, but I did have a team. And at one point I had 3 or 4 people talking with clients. So I needed to make sure to reel it in and make sure to keep in your terms, the essence of the business and what we stand for, and over communication and a really good service and care and attention to detail. Yeah, those are great things. Gosh, Lisa, this has been a blast of a chat. I really, really enjoyed talking with you about this. We did a member call that I was on months ago. And I mean, you and I have chatted before one-on-one, and you've been on the Q&As a couple of times, but I was just one of these member calls I occasionally hop on, and I think I had hopped on and you were talking, and you were so eloquent and passionate about, I think, the idea of not being on every social media channel. And I just loved what you were saying. So I was like, I got to get you on the podcast. So I'm so glad you agreed to come on. I think this chat is going to benefit so many people and help personalize their business and help with branding and authenticity. I feel really empowered and more confident than ever to be myself. So this was really helpful for me. I hope it was for you too. I mean, I really value your insight in this. So thank you.
Thank you so much.
I do.
Thanks so much for having me. It was amazing to have this chat, and I'm really glad that we could unpack it. It wasn't as structured as I thought it would be. It was actually really organic and lovely just to dive into these topics, which I think is so important in the day, in this period of life that we find ourselves in. It's just to be yourself, be authentic, find your tribe. We don't have to do things that we don't like to do anymore. We don't have to force ourselves to have dead-end jobs or sit at a place where we hate every second. I think life is too precious. Just, find what really switches you on, find your passion, and then find your tribe. They're out there. You just have to find them.
Oh, that's a great final point. That's a great final thought there. I had one last question for you real quick, but before we get to that, where would you like people to go to find out more about you, Lisa? They're not going to find you on TikTok or anything, but where would you like to go if somebody wants to?
Not at all, or YouTube. But my website would be the best. So it's livecreative.co.za.
Awesome. And of course, we'll have that linked in the show notes. I'm just curious, final question as we end this call. What is your personal favorite personalization technique? Is there one that you just love doing? Is it the videos for proposals? Is it the Zoom calls? What is your favorite right now that you feel like makes a big impact for your business and you just love doing?
I think it must be just that first Zoom call that I have with a potential client, but again, a person that's been a referral. So it's a person it's a warm lead. I do think that personalization, even though it takes a lot of my energy, to do that. And I get pretty worked up before because it's just who I am. It's my personality. So it takes a lot of my energy, but I love painting that picture and just seeing kind of the brain goes click on the other side, or I just see a sparkle in the eye of, wow, okay, I can use these tools and I can actually put myself out there without, but having this person that will help me through that process. So I'm not going to do it on my own. I have someone that can hold my hand. I think that personalization to me is definitely my favorite. And of course, the proposal videos too.
Yeah. You know what my favorite is? I have to tell you my favorite now, why I still have it. Okay. Like you did when you sent me a video back after my video. That is my favorite, because I see names come through in orders all the time and I see names everywhere. But for me, because I don't have a intensive like one-on-one type of service, I don't often get to know my students, although that's one of the main reasons I started my club, was to get to know you and others in it. But when a student sends me a video back, and it doesn't have to be quality or anything, it could just be on their phone while they're in a car or something. I love that, because suddenly when you sent me a video back, I got to know Lisa a little bit. And you said, Josh, I think you even said like, I'm blown away that you sent me a video. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And it was so cool for me because I saw your order come through in the business course, Lisa Breedt from South Africa, excuse me. So I was like, oh, cool. Yeah. But I didn't know you at all. And then when you sent me a video back, it was so cool. So that's my favorite thing. So thank you, because the personalization reciprocity, there we go. Something like that. That is awesome. That is awesome to me. So everybody send me a video back. I love them and I watch them all.
Lovely. So we're going to bombard you with videos from now on.
Let's do it. I'll take it. I love the videos. So Lisa, thank you so much for your time. I know we went quite a little while here, but gosh, I really enjoyed chatting with you. I think everyone's going to agree. I love the South African accent. I just love it. I can talk to you all day. I kind of want to have you like read me a book. Maybe if you ever get into audio books, I will take any books that you read. I just love your accent. So thanks so much for joining, and thanks for your thoughts today.
Thanks so much, Josh. Really appreciate it.
Cheers.
Hey guys and gals, just wanted to pop in with a couple things before you head out. If you enjoyed this episode, please consider leaving a review on iTunes or wherever you listen to this podcast. I would love to hear your feedback, and it will also help other web designers find the show. Be sure to check out the show notes for this episode. Just go to joshhall.co, click on podcasts, and search this episode number, and you'll find all the links, descriptions, and resources we talked about. And if you haven't already, make sure you subscribe, and you'll be notified when the next episode is live. Thanks again for tuning in, and I'll catch you guys on the next episode.